Hello, good morning. Welcome to another little live chat with me. My name's Rhiannon Morgan. Everyone calls me Rhi, and today we are talking about planning for the week ahead. And I'm going to be sharing with you my weekend reset routine. And I'm aware that if you're watching this live or listening to this whatever, then it may not be the weekend for you. Obviously, if you're watching this live, it's actually a Thursday, and I'm sharing with you what I would normally do on the weekend. Sometimes on a Friday, I would start this process, but these are the kind of planning things I do over the weekend to prepare for the week ahead. And honestly, this routine has taken a while to develop and it's gone through many iterations. But the difference it has made in my life, I cannot even tell you. So years ago, just a little history, very brief history lesson. I was not an organized person. I was not brought up to be an organized person. I was not brought up in an organized family. And then, one baby and still not feeling very organized. I always felt like that mum that was falling behind, couldn't really on top of things. And then every time I was having another baby, I thought, wow, if I don't get my act together now, I'm in trouble. Now, obviously, had some slight extra challenges I wasn't aware of at the time. Turns out, found out last year I've got ADHD. So that explains a lot. And my children have autism. So that means there's a lot more planning that goes into various things because if you've got neurodiverse children, there are additional things they're going to want to need. And if those things aren't in place, you're more likely to have meltdowns. So it's been a bit of a journey, and I have been doing this weekend planning reset for quite some time now. And every now and again, we'll be away for the weekend and I won't do the full routine. And I cannot even tell you the mess that my week is in the following week. Honestly, cannot even tell you. So, this routine works. I'm going to walk you through it. So, hopefully, you can utilize some of it in your own life, perhaps persuade you to pick up some elements of it to start making life that little bit easier. So, without further ado, I'm going to be using my Organised Life Planner. This is the version 2.0. It's like my original Organised Life Planner and my Organised Life and Gratitude Planner had a baby, but there is also a digital version which I've got inside of my Organised Life binder. Now, if you are inside of my Organised Life Club, where the details can be found below, you can get started for free. In fact, there's a forever free tier, you don't have to pay anything. But if you join as a full member in the Organised Life Club, that's £10 a month, and you get all the printables to start your own Organised Life binder. And this month, on top of many, many other printables, I'll go through those at the end, I have got the Organised Life Planner, the digital copy. So that's what I'm kind of going to go through with you today. Um, the digital printables, those are available inside the Organised Life Club as your June bonus. So these are the A4 versions. Now, what I tend to do, I've printed them in full A4 just to show you today, just it's a little bit bigger to show you on camera. But what I tend to do is when I am printing these out for my own Organised Life binder, if I'm doing printables rather than the printed version, when I'm selecting in the printer, I just select 2 per page, and that way you get one there and one there, and it comes out the same size as you would get it in the planner. I hope that makes sense. That saves you a little bit of paper, a little bit of space, and then I just whole bunch across the top. It's also easier to write that way because when I'm writing inside of my Organised Life binder, and I've got a whole video about how I discuss how I use that. So this is an example of like these are 2 separate pages, but it's easy to write because there's nothing in the way. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so without further ado, now what I do is I start with the week at a glance. Now, although I use a paper planner, I also use a digital calendar, and I have talked about this previously in other videos. Let me know if you want me to discuss this again in other videos or indeed podcast episodes. It is possible you are listening to this audio on my podcast, which used to be called the Real Talk with Rhi podcast, is now the Organised Life with Rhi podcast. If you are a podcast listener, hello. If you are not, if you're watching on YouTube and you do want to catch up with the podcast, then just search Organised Life with Rhi podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Anyway, the first thing I do is I go to my digital calendar. And then I take this week at a glance page. And the way I work it, I mean, you can work it whichever way you want, but I just do the initials for each family member across the top, like this. And this is what I do then is I copy into here the things that are relevant. Perhaps the best thing to do is to get a clipboard actually so I can write on this nicely. Um, I copy the items that are relevant for an at a glance just to see roughly where everyone is. So circling back a little bit to the digital calendar, the reason I use a digital calendar is because it syncs with all of my devices. So I can, I can see it on my phone, my iPad, all the places. I also have separate calendars that synchronize with family members. So if it's something that all the family need to know about, like sports day, or we're going to see a show, or one of the kids has got an activity or whatever, then it can go in the family calendar and everyone knows what's going on. So I go to my digital calendars and then I write at a glance what I've got coming up. So I guess let's just look at next week and have a rough look at what I've got going on to see the kind of things that we would be talking about. So I know I have got ballet for myself on Monday. I have been doing adult ballet and absolutely flipping loving it. It is the one time that my very loud ADHD brain actually focuses on being very present and in the moment, because if you've ever done ballet, shout out if you've ever done ballet, then you'll know that there's so much to think about. It's like not just your body, but like eyeline, fingers, exact turnout, and is my foot suckling? And there's just, because you're thinking about every element of your body, you're actually in the moment, not thinking, oh, shopping list, oh, what should we do, work tasks. It's fantastic. So if you are thinking about doing some sort of activity that you used to love, I used to dance years ago, um let this be your sign to take up some sort of hobby. Obviously that one's quite beneficial for me as well because exercise, but yeah, love that. Okay, then on Tuesday I am doing, let's have a look, I am running a workshop inside of my Organised Life Club. We're doing our meal routine workshop, so we'll just put workshop there. I'm not going to write every single thing out now, but just to give you a rough idea. So for example, Wednesday, this is an important one to know. The hairdresser, we have a mobile hairdresser. If you have got multiple kids, busy schedules, or and especially children with autism actually, mobile hairdresser is the best thing we ever did. I used to get so stressed out taking them all to the hairdresser and they don't have to behave, all the others were in the hairdresser, and then even if I went on my own it would be like, oh, but, I've got to get back. Hairdresser to the house, flipping game changer. But that's happening Wednesday, so that's happening for like all of us. So hairdresser. Now you might say, right, if you've got a digital calendar, why do you need to write all this out? Well, a few reasons. First of all, if you actually were to look at my digital calendar, which I'm not going to show you right now, there are so many things on it. There's all of my to-do list syncs with it because all of my reminders in my um, iPhone pop up on my calendar as well. And those are things like, take your vitamins and just all those kind of things that I'm supposed to do, and they're on repeat. I've also got all of my content calendar synced to my calendar, and just it's quite busy and chaotic. So by writing it down onto here or into my planner version, which I can carry around with me from room to room, I find it helps my brain decode and understand and analyze what is actually coming up. So, for example, the fact that the hairdresser is coming on Wednesday, not only is Wednesday a busy day because the girls actually have a dance class that night, so we're going to be back and forth anyway. And I know that, they've got um, not simultaneous, but sequential dance classes. So one's there, and then it's another. That is a night that's going to be really relevant for meal planning, especially since the hairdresser is going to be there. It's going to be one of those nights that's a case of like, we're not all going to be sitting at the table at the same time. However, other nights, such as Monday, we're on next Monday, not every Monday, but next Monday, we're all more likely to be home as it stands at the moment. So by writing down all of these different things, when people have got like I can see One of my kids has got 2 trips next week, so they will need packed lunches, and normally they have school dinners. These are relevant things to jot onto this list. And by popping them into this at a glance, I can see, right, this is what needs to be done. So from there, from the at a glance list, oh, by the way, I will also speak to my husband and say, by the way, what is going on with you next week that you haven't told me about and you haven't put in the calendar? And largely, this will be a case of I don't really care what he's doing during the day. I just want to know, is he home for dinner or is he not home for dinner? Because if he's not home for dinner, he's quite fussy with what he eats, and I will feed the children something he doesn't like, and the children do. Okay, so next we go on to my meal plan, which, like I say, if you're just in the like the printed book version, these pages are opposite each other, which is really handy because you can have the spread open and look at what's going on here, because then that's going to be relevant to what you feed everyone over here. Because on the nights, like next Monday, for example, we're all more likely to be home and around. That's a time we can all sit together and have a meal that could take a little longer to prepare. Whereas on Wednesday, it's going to be the hairdresser and the girls are in and out. That is going to have to be something that can be eaten in a staggered way, or something that could be something like, like a pasta bake or something that you can kind of leave in the oven and spoon out a bit, and then, like Bella can eat it and then Zara can eat it half an hour later. Because if it's one of those meals, I can't think what off the top of my head, but certain food has to be kind of cooked and then served and eaten straight away, whereas other food lends itself to being more staggered, if you follow. But the first thing we do before this, and obviously I'm not going to physically do this now because I'm in here with you and I'm not in my kitchen, but I actually go to my fridge and to my big pantry cupboard, and I look at which ingredients I have to use up. Now I know, because I did look earlier, that we have got jacket potatoes that need using up. So that needs to be one of the meals, um, incorporated into one of the meals. We actually just quite like jacket potato and salad and cheese and beans. Such an easy meal, but just, quite nutritious. Some family members prefer a sweet jacket potato, some prefer a normal jacket potato, but that isn't like cooking a totally different meal, which years ago, before I put all the things in place that we now have in place to get everyone to eat pretty much the same meal every night, everyone was eating different meals. People weren't eating at the right times, or at the same times. We weren't all sitting down together. Meal times were chaotic, stressful, and I was that person who was buying the food, throwing out the food because it had gone off, and still felt like I didn't know what we're having for dinner. And it was just incredibly stressful. So in the mealtime routine workshop, which we're actually doing next Tuesday inside of the Organised Life Club, I'm going to be covering all of that. We've got a big workbook to work through, which there'll be a replay so you can kind of go back over it. But we'll be joining live, going through all that together, and just making sure that everyone has the tools and the resources to make meal times easier. Because I know firsthand, stressful meal times, just that can just it can eat you up. It could really, excuse me the pun, it can be incredibly stressful. Anyway, so we go through all the ingredients to use. Uh, can't think of this exactly off the top of my head. What else? I do know there's jacket potatoes need to use, but whatever, just look through the fridge, look through the pantry. Maybe there's like a jar of something that's been sitting there for a while. I think, okay, how can I incorporate that? A tin of something, there's some chopped tomatoes or something. I don't know. Whatever you've got more of than you need, or something that's approaching expiry date, or something's just been sitting there. That's a good way to think, right, or a good time to think, sorry, when can I fit this into next week? How can I incorporate this into the meals to circulate the food that I've already got, to avoid buying things I don't need, and just avoiding waste, really. Avoiding waste and avoiding just clogging up the cupboards full of stuff that we're not using. Then we would go between, I'm showing here again actually, just because that's easier, because they are next to each other. I should have printed them out like this. This is how normally I would print them out. I thought, here's me thinking, I'll print it nice and big so you can see it on camera, but actually it's easier to show you like this. So based on what we've got going on here, and based on, so on our Wednesday, we're going to need a quick and easy meal. And on our Monday, for example, we're going to have more time. We then, between what's going on and the ingredients we have to use, do the what we're going to have each night. And then I fill that out. And then from there, we do the shopping list. So I have got on my organisation station in the kitchen a space for family members to write things that we are running out of. And I developed this system after my family would just be like, "Mom, we're out of from another room," and expect me to have not just heard it, but actioned it and purchased it, and then would get cross with me when I hadn't bought whatever it was. And they'd be like, "I did tell you." And I'd be all, "Well, when? Because I didn't hear you." So now we have the system of a centralized shopping list. You could do this digitally too. You could have like a central shopping list on your phones, but we just find the easiest thing to do is to have it on the organisation station in the kitchen. I have got a full blog post how you can put together your own organisation station. If you go to mummyof4.com/organisation station, I believe, then all the details are there and the printables and things to put that together. Anyway, so I've got we have the centralized shopping list there, and I would then make my own shopping list here based on the things that are on that organisation station shopping list and the things I need to make these meals that are not in this list. So the shopping list is like the things we need here minus the ingredients that we've got to use if you want to put it in a mathematical equation, and that needs to go on my shopping list. Hope I'm making sense so far. So then from there, I go and actually do my grocery order, and I do this online. Now, I know some people love grocery shopping, and if that is you, if it's something that lights up your soul, if you enjoy it, amazing, great, I'm happy for you. However, for me, grocery shopping is false economy. So, we can pay for things with money or we can pay for things with time. For me, we don't have any big supermarkets super close by, so I would have to drive to those places. And then I would have to take a considerable amount of time out of my day to drive to those places, go around and choose all the stuff, and then put it in my car and drive it home and then unpack it and put it all away. And I chose a long time ago to stop doing that when the children were very small, because actually I am better off, especially since I'm self-employed. Perhaps it's slightly less relevant if you've got a job where you work fixed hours, but equally, is there better way you could be spending that time? I could be earning more money working than I would be if I went to the supermarket. And also the cost balance, it costs us, I think, £7 a month to have groceries delivered. It would definitely cost me more than that in fuel to physically drive to those shops. And also, excuse me, I do personally believe that I can assess a little bit better when I'm looking in an online grocery order. Do we really need this? And you can just delete it from your basket if you don't actually need it, rather than being in the supermarket and kind of chucking things in the trolley and not really knowing what you've picked up because it's all under a big mound until you get home. And then maybe realizing that you picked up something twice because, there was one on promotion and there was another one on aisle. And I personally find for my brain, it works out more economical as well as time efficient to do the online shopping. Now, like I say, if you love online shopping, if it lights you up, if it feeds your soul, if it's something you would do for fun, amazing. If you do not love it and it's taking a significant time out of your week, have a look. I urge you to have a look at online shopping. What I do then each week is I book the upcoming grocery slots, and I just book them for the same times each week because that way my brain just, it's another autopilot thing. I put it into the online calendar, our shared calendar, so the family knows when the groceries are coming. But by just you booking the same slots over and over, it really helps yeah, it helps my brain. So talk about this briefly. I have ADHD, the children have autism. The children love routine because it helps them feel safe and secure and like everything in the world is okay. I like routine because it automates things and takes things out of my very messy, very spaghetti tangled brain. If you were to look inside my brain, it's like a lot of people talking at once and lots of files all thrown all over the floor and post-its and notes, and it's chaos, okay? And the less I have to try and hold in there, the better. And for me, when I put something on automation, so I have the same grocery slot, I do things at the same time each week. It's just one less thing to have to think about. It's taking things off my mental load and it helps me. I can't even tell you how much it helps me. Okay. So I tend to book these same slots. So I just know that's when it's coming. And if I don't do this, we can sometimes get a bit like, oh, we're running out of food. Oh, when should we get it booked? And like, oh, and then you try and book a slot and there aren't any available. And then you've got to go anyway, even though you've paid for subscription. And booking these slots in advance helps so much. And then I get a little ping from the app the day before saying, do you want to add anything to your basket? I also, when I set the calendar appointment in my calendar, I set reminders to go off a day and 2 days before to say, hey, you're having groceries in a day, having groceries in 2 days. And that reminds me to update the list too. So that is at a glance and meal planning. Then we go over to this week's priorities. Now, one of the big changes I made to this page in my Organised Life Planner 2.0, this is an Eisenhower matrix, by the way. So the previous Eisenhower what is the plural of matrix? Matrices, I'm not sure. I don't know what the plural of matrix is, but whatever the plural of matrix is, um, I uh, previously had, let's see if I can find a blank one. There we go. So this is the one from the original Organised Life Planner. We had the this week's priorities, and this is how you traditionally have an organized an Eisenhower matrix setup. So you'd have important and not important at the top, and then urgent and not urgent down the side. So task, this is in place of a traditional to-do list where you just put it all in a list. And I think when you've just got a to-do list that's all in a list, it's very easy to just pick off the easy wins to get that little dopamine hit. Tick, tick, tick. It's like, hey, I did so much. I look at all these things I ticked. But if the things that you're ticking are just little itty bitty things, not big important things off your to-do list, and you're looking around and everything's still a mess, but hey, you've ticked a lot off, that's not really helpful. So the Eisenhower matrix is a good way of brain dumping your to-dos into a format that will really help you. So obviously, if something is important and urgent, this stuff has to be done this week. Super, super important. Now, the reason I changed this one to important, not important slash not taxing, is because some things are, it's not to say they're not important, but they're not taxing. So, for example, if I've got to reply to an email to the school about something for one of my children, and that is important, like that really needs to be done because perhaps it's to do with care they're receiving or whatever. It's important, okay? But it's not like a big meaty project. It's not a taxing thing. That's a couple of minute job. So, yes, it's urgent because it needs to be done this week. Yes, it is important because it's about getting IDPs sorted, or EHCPs, you call them in England, you know, just like their plans for the support they'll receive in school. It's really important, but it's not a big, it's going to take me hours to do. It's not like um, pack for a trip. That is important and it is urgent. It's important because if we don't pack, then, we haven't got the stuff. But it is quite a big job. But I did feel that by saying not important, like birthday cards were another example I always use. So a birthday card, if you to say like sending someone a birthday card isn't important felt wrong because it's like, well, that person is important to me. It's important to send them a birthday card, but it's definitely not taxing. So that's why I reframed that. Anyway, things that are important but not urgent are like, if I get through all this stuff this week, I'll start tackling these things. urgent and not important or taxing, again, these things need to be done this week, but these are like quick win things. So if you have ever been in a situation where you have sorry, totally lost my train of thought now. Right, eat the frog, that's what I'm trying to talk about. If you have heard me talk about or read the book Eat the Frog, then that talks about how we do our most important, most move the needle tasks earlier in the day. And the reason this is about frogs is the theory is if you had to eat a frog and you've got to eat it later and you think you're going to spend the whole day dreading it and being like, oh my goodness, I've got to eat a frog later. That's so awful. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's going to ruin your whole day because the anticipation and the anxiety about having to eat this frog. Sorry, my throat is still sore from tonsillitis last week. The anticipation, the anxiety about having to eat this frog later is just going to ruin your day. And you're just going to put it off and put it off, and it's not going to be fun. So the theory is if you have to eat a frog, do it first thing in the morning, get it over and done with, and move on with your day. And if you have to eat two frogs, you need to eat the biggest, smelliest, slimiest one first. And the whole theory is just get it over and done with. So the way I like to do it is to earlier in the day, and I like to think of motivation like your phone battery. You wake up in the morning, you've charged it, and you've got lots of motivation, you've got plenty of phone battery. And then throughout the day, your phone battery is just dwindling and dwindling and diminishing, and so is your motivation. So if in the day, the beginning of the day, we tackle the things that are more important and urgent, and then towards the end of the day where we're losing the plot a little bit, we can pick off a few of the like quick win things rather than using that time first thing in the morning where we are feeling motivated and we have got energy to do the easy, not taxing things. And that way, the important things, we never get to them. So once I have got the Eisenhower matrix completely filled out, I then go to my most important tasks for each day. Like I said, the printable versions of these, so these that can be printed on A4 or printed to a sheet, are available this month inside of my Organised Life Club. All the details of how to join can be found below, and you just go to mummyof4.com/join and you can grab these printables, and then you can rewind all of this and listen to it and plan along with me. So once I've done my Eisenhower matrix, we go to the most important tasks for each day. I like to choose 3 top priorities for each day. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't do more than these things because of the priorities come out of these important and urgent tasks, okay? We're not picking 3 send a birthday card type tasks because we can manage more than that in a day, okay? Maybe like clean the house or something that's going to take several hours. That could be, one of the priorities for the day. However, just clean my desk, as in literally spray and wipe my desk, 2-minute job, not a big priority, not a big chunky task. So that is not the kind of thing that makes it onto here. So the things that make it onto the priorities for the day are from the important and urgent list. Now, the other thing we have to consider while planning for the day is everything we've got going on here in the week at a glance. So for me, for example, let's take this back to next week, shall we? And just have a little look. So I'm already doing my Organised Life Club meal routine workshop on Tuesday. That means I will already have my camera set up. I already will have made sure I have brushed my hair and I've put on some lipstick and I'm, like ready to talk to you all. So that is a good day for me to film some more videos because that's batching those tasks together and that's a good time to film videos. However, on Monday, when I've just got back from ballet, I'm all sweaty and messy and, probably not the best time to film things. So it's a good idea to look at what you've got ahead and to plan your tasks, and they go into your calendar. And that's why they go into this most important tasks each day. I put them in like that because they become like appointments. And if you had a hairdresser appointment or had a dentist appointment, you'd show up to it. And if you plan in the things you want to get done during the week into your planner and you treat them like an appointment, you're going to show up for them. Now, something I am slowly but surely learning is that it's not just these really, move the needle forward, be productive tasks that we need to plan into our days and weeks, but we also need to plan downtime and rest and fun and things too. We plan plenty of fun for our kids. I mean, we all do. Do we plan enough fun for ourselves? I'm just going to put that out there because it's something I'm working on. Do we plan rest? Do we time block in rest, or do we overschedule every single minute? Hands up if you've been guilty of doing this in the past. I know I have. Anyway, time blocking in things like rest can also be super, super important. I'm also now choosing habits I want to focus on each week so that I can track them, because things that get measured get done. So if you want to drink more water, so say you want to drink more water. Hello, trying to drink more water. If you want to drink more water and you have a goal of, well, I think we're all supposed to do at least 2 liters a day, aren't we? Unless we're active, in that case, it needs to be even more than that. But say, for example, you want to drink 2 liters of water every day. Every day you do that, you can get the satisfaction of getting that little dopamine hit and ticking it off. And you're just far more likely to do it when you get that little, hey, I did it. Maybe you want to walk 10,000 steps every day. Maybe you want to see how many days you can tick that off. Maybe you want to do a 10-minute workout. I love the workouts on Apple Fitness Plus. There are so many on YouTube. Maybe you want to do that every day. Maybe you just want to, for your habit for next week, to mean you reset the kitchen every night before bed. So when you wake up, that's a gift to future you, and you're coming down to start the day in a lovely, clean, tidy kitchen, not in the mess of yesterday's dishes, because is there anything more stressful? Maybe it's something as simple as making your bed in the morning and you get a little tick, because making your bed sets the tone for the day. Nice, clean bed, room feels nice and tidy. Whatever your little habits you want to be focusing on, pop them in year, get them ticked off every day, and then on next week's reset, you can see, okay, did pretty well with the water, amazing. Struggled with the steps. That's definitely something I used to struggle with to get in, especially when the weather was bad or when the kids were ill or I was behind with work. That is why I've got to say, shout out to my walking pad. This desk, it's a sit stand walking desk. Being able to get my steps in, absolute game changer. I could talk about that all day. Anyway, which habits would you like to work on next week? I would love to hear in the comments. By the way, we should have just a little look if there are any comments to have a little chat about. Jasmine, good morning. Alison Borda. For those of you that do not know, I do not speak Welsh, but I do know that, as I live in Wales, means good morning. Good morning, Alison. Good morning. I love planning on a Friday evening on the weekend because it helps me stay focused on things I have coming up. If I don't plan it all in to feel organized, I feel unproductive. Yeah, I mean, exactly that. I just find that when you sit down to work or you drop the kids off in school and you get home, if you don't know what you should be doing, then you'll spend a lot of time. If that was your planning time, then you'd be like, well, what should I be doing? And you just suddenly the time goes and you think, well, I didn't really do anything. I didn't actively rest. And don't get me wrong, planning to actively rest is something I'm trying to do more. It's something I'm trying to learn how to do. I'm not very good at resting. I don't really know how that works, but I'm working on it. Um, if you plan to sit down and rest, that's amazing. And that is something that is very positive. However, if you think I want to do something that's productive, so maybe I should clean the house, maybe I should start that side hustle I was thinking about, maybe I should do laundry. But then you're thinking, oh, what should I do? What should I do? But you're not actually doing anything. You haven't rested. So you do not feel rested. You do not have that satisfaction of rest. You've not benefited from that rest. You just have the guilt you should have done something, and yet you haven't actually done anything. I personally don't think there's anything much more stressful than that. So my brain is always analysing information all the time as a student, daughter and hospital patient too, from day-to-day life, student college life too, always love writing. Okay, lovely. Emma says, I'm a big planner. Polly dances 20 plus hours a week. Gosh, that's commitment, isn't it? Plus 2-hour round trip to drive each time. So looking to see if I'm missing anything to streamline the planning for after school. Absolutely. I mean, the fuller your life is, the more planning is essential. And I know some people are like, oh, routine, oh, planning. It feels so restrictive. But for me, the more you can plan in, planning is actually freedom. So taking that time to sit and plan so my groceries just show up, that's freedom because I don't have to drive to the supermarket. That's freedom because I'm not dealing with meltdowns because we haven't got the right food for dinner. That is freedom for me. Planning so that when I come to my desk, the kids have gone to school, it's like, it's my work slot, not sitting there going, oh, what should I be doing? Oh, I'm wasting an hour just wondering, is freedom. Because if I'm working during that hour instead of wondering what on earth I should be doing, I'm actually then buying myself back an hour. Because let's face it, if you've got an hour's work that needs doing, it needs doing. And if you waste an hour before you start the hour, you're going to have to pull that back somewhere else. You're going to have to work again when the kids are home from school, or you're going to have to work instead of sleeping, or whatever. It's got to come from somewhere. So for me, planning is freedom because it actually frees up more time. That's how it works for me anyway. Okay, my brain is, oh yeah, I've had that one. Do you have a new morning routine video coming soon? Yes, I am planning to film some new morning routine videos, evening routine videos, and weekend reset routine videos. There we go. Okay. So, though once I go from the that's the planning I do on the weekend. I then, on the weekend, sometimes start to fill out some of these pages with key dates, but I mostly go over them each day. So I'm going to briefly go over what I do for daily planning because it kind of bleeds in a little bit to the weekend. So each of the top priorities that I have picked here then go into three type priorities for each day. Is this a little bit repetitive? Yes. Is it absolutely necessary for every single person to follow each of these steps? Maybe not. Is it necessary for my ADHD brain in order to process what I'm supposed to be doing? Yes, 100%. So I have my three top priorities for each day. Those are front and center. Then on my to-do list, I put all of the little bitty things. So some of these little bitty things are from this important and not taxing, and some of them are like breaking down a bigger task. So, example of the to-do list. So, say I have to pack for a trip. Um, on the to-do list might be like find all the outfits, get something down from the attic, uh, um, order something that needs packing. Like the little bitty tasks. So the priorities are more like the overarching projects, or for example, say this was a video, not a live. Obviously, we're doing that, or in fact, no. Let's call this live. So, for example, one of my tasks today is to do this live, that then will also go onto my podcast. So that's the overall project. The kind of mini projects under that. Previously, I would have had to like make a thumbnail for it, share it inside of my membership community to let people know that it's here, promote it on my Instagram stories. So all these would be little to-do list things. And then when I get off this live, I will need to upload it to my podcast, share it in various places. And those are just the little tasks. So if you can see the difference between the big priorities, which are the projects, and then the tasks. So if you need to declutter a room, for example, that's like the big task. Maybe the smaller task would be work through your decluttering workbook. Have I got one here? I have got, yes, I have. These are all available inside of the Organised Life Club. Okay, so the decluttering workbook. So, say you want to declutter a room. One of the tasks might be work through the pages in the decluttering workbook and write out the lists for that day. Then the next task might be physically pull everything out, and then the next one might be sort the recycling, and then you'd have like take things to the recycling place or donate things to the school or whatever. Those would be just the smaller tasks broken down underneath that bigger priority. And then over on the second page, so this is my 2-page spread inside of my Organised Life Planner each day. Now I changed this. This used to be 10 things I'm grateful for. And that's great. Practicing gratitude is absolutely something that if we all do it, it elevates how we feel. It improves our outlook, which in turn makes our families happy, improves our productivity, all the things. You can't rave enough about practicing gratitude. However, sometimes that's not what I need to write down. Sometimes on certain days, I need to record my wins. So I've changed this to 10 to-dos. So this could be 10 things I'm grateful for. You could, in the morning, write 10 things that you are grateful for to put you in the right mindset for the day. Or towards the end of the day, you could write 10 things you have done. So this is like the reverse to-do list. Maybe something wasn't on your to-do list and you still got it done today and you're proud of that. Something great that happened. So it could be something you're grateful for in your whole life. It could be something good that happened that day. These are just 10 positives, 10 wins. And when I fill these in, I feel so much better. I can't even tell you. And then down the bottom, we have the brain dump. And this is my brain dump slash side quest place where each day as I'm working, so say I'm working, typing along, typing, then I'm like, oh, need to do that thing for school, need to order those tights for the school concert, need to pay for the da 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 da. Yeah, you can write those down in your to-do list. Or you can don't put them in your brain dump because also sometimes it's not a to-do item that comes up. Sometimes it's like, "Oh, I've had this great idea for redesigning my website." And my ADHD brain wants to drop the thing I'm doing, which maybe I'm a bit bored with, maybe I'm a bit bored with editing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm just going to do this other project. I think, no, okay. I need to capture this idea because my brain works like that line from The Sound of Music. It's like, how do you catch a cloud and pin it down? My ideas are like clouds. And if I do not pin them down immediately, they will drift off and I'll never see them again. So I think part of my impulsivity to go and do the thing as soon as it pops into my mind is because I'm scared it's just going to drift off and I'll never see it again. And by jotting it down and capturing it in my brain dump here, then I will have a place to have caught all these ideas and they've not just drifted off, which brings me full circle back around to the next weekend and back to this is why it's a cyclical thing, which is back to the very beginning, which I didn't tell you this at the beginning because it wouldn't have made sense. But at one of the things that I do when I am putting together this Eisenhower matrix is go back through my brain dump from the week. So I flick through the last 7 days of my planner notes and I look at my brain dumps and I think, okay, what what great ideas did I come up with of things I wanted to do that need to be scheduled into next week's Eisenhower matrix? Maybe it's a great idea and it's really not a yet thing, but to keep it front of mind, I can still put it in this important, not urgent. Or maybe even if it's not important, it's not urgent, it's like a way in the future kind of thing. But those ideas are captured in my brain dumps and they're captured and then they're put into here. I also go through the previous week's Eisenhower matrix while I'm putting these together to see what was not finished from last week and needs to be included in this week. Now, like I said, some weeks I haven't done this because life, and largely by life, I mean because we've been away for the weekend. And on those weekends where I have not done all of this planning for the future weeks, the upcoming week rather, on the weekends where I've not done that, the week has just been clunky. It's been bumpy, it's had kinks in it. It has not gone smoothly. Okay. I've not been as productive. I've not got as much done. I've not been able to hit the ground running at the beginning of the week and get things done because I'm just playing catch up mode with all of this. So now before I go on a trip, I like to sit and do all of this planning before I go, if that's it, like if it's a weekend trip. Excuse me, drinking my water so I can tick it off my habit list. Um, if I have done all of this planning before we go away, at least that way when we get back from the trip, yes, I've got washing to catch up on. Yes, I've got unpacking to do. Yes, the house is probably a mess because people have come home and tipped stuff all over it from the cases. But at least we're planning for the week. And in fact, planning time to unpack is something that I would plan to do before I go. Now, this is one piece of the puzzle of our weekend routine reset. This is the planning portion that I do every single week. There are lots of other things we do during a weekend routine reset that sort of come together to make all of this work. And it is currently June. So this month's workshop is the mealtime routine workshop. We have got the mealtime routine resources workbook. We're going to be going through all of this in that workshop. But I think the one we're doing for July is going to be a weekend reset workshop inside of the Organised Life Club. So if you go to mummyoffour.com/join, all of the details can be found below. Then I'll be going over not just the planning, but all of the other elements that form the weekend routine reset, all of the things that we do on the weekend to make the week ahead, especially as a neurodiverse family with children with autism, to make things go smoothly for the week ahead. So if that's something of interest, I would love to have you join me in there. That's mummyoffour.com/join. Um, and you will be able to get your hands on straight away the mealtime routine mealtime routine resources workbook, and like I said, the workshops next week. The decluttering workbook's in there, the routine assessment workbook and workshop is already in there, and all of the Organised Life Binder starter pack printables and more. So much more in there to help you get organized. So if you would love to be a little bit more organized, if you are feeling like you're drowning in life, basically in mum life, if you perhaps are like me, if your brain works like mine, whether you're diagnosed with ADHD or not, if your brain works like mine, this is all the stuff that's going to help you just feel more calm, feel more on top of things. If you have got children who are on the spectrum or going through the assessment process, there's resources in there to help. There's the Autism Journey Journal, which will help guide you through the whole process. I think I am going to be doing some sessions in there, working through all of that too. So I would love to have you come join me for all of that. So click on screen if you're watching on YouTube to watch another video, rate, review, subscribe on the podcast, and definitely come join me inside of my Organised Life Club, and I'll see you guys in there soon.